It actually took 50 years.
50.
50. So it was 1890s when these buttons were invented, but it took until about 1940s, or if not 1950s, for these automatic elevators to be common. Welcome to Culture and Code, a podcast about the biggest shifts in culture and tech. I'm Rei and Tara, a creative entrepreneur and founding partner of Iron Co, a global innovation firm based in New York, Tokyo, and Singapore.
And I'm Tara Tan, managing partner at Strange Ventures, an early stage fund focused on the future of computing.
So today's topic is the adoption of new technologies. And obviously, needless to say, that we are in the midst of one of the biggest transitions, at least of my lifetime, going from regular digital technologies to AI technologies. But I thought I would start off by sharing an old story of how people adapted to a new technology. And this story is about elevators. And the idea of an elevator has existed for a long, long time, for centuries. But the elevators, as we know them today, which is you get into this box and you press a button and automatically it goes to the floor that you want to go to. And that technology itself, an automatic elevator that's operated by a machine, is about maybe 125 years old. So it was in the 1890s when this individual, Otis, and Otis, by the way, is an elevator company today. It's one of the leading elevator companies today, was founded by an inventor in New York named Otis, who invented a button that automates the movement of the elevator. So up until then, the elevators were operated by human operators who would ride the elevator with you. And that operator would have to manually dial or spin a wheel to go to a certain floor. And it was this invention of these buttons up and down and then floor numbers that would take the passengers to that given floor. So that was in 1890s. And by that point, the elevator technology had developed enough that there were these measures that would prevent accidents from happening. So for instance, like let's say the rope of the elevator gets damaged or gets cut, there were stoppers or mechanisms that would stop the elevators from falling down. So technologically, elevators were safe by 1890s, and it was these buttons that made the elevators automatic. Now, the question is, you know the answer to this, but the question is, how long did it take for these automatic elevators without human operators to be adopted by the general public?
Yeah, I was going to say 7 years. I don't know, 8 years.
No, it took much, much longer. Take a guess again.
I don't know, 20.
It actually took 50 years.
50.
50. So it was 1890s when these buttons were invented, but it took until about 1940s, or if not 1950s, for these automatic elevators to be common. And the reason was when these automatic elevators were introduced, nobody wanted to get into them. Yeah, people were scared of getting into an elevator, much like, I guess, these automatic vehicles, or autonomous vehicles, I should say, that the technology, well, I guess autonomous vehicles may be a slightly different story, but the technologies had been around for quite some time for the elevators to function properly without a human operator. But the human passengers were afraid to get into them without somebody that you can trust to operate the box. Yeah. So I thought this would be a worthwhile topic to dig into because we are seeing automation of many things today, and we've seen automation of many, many things in the past. And as I mentioned, autonomous vehicle being one of those things. I'll stop here and just see your reaction in terms of A, the adoption of elevators as a new technology and why it takes so long, and B, what patterns we are seeing today and might see in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story. I mean, I do think elevators, for one, it's physical built environment stuff takes a lot longer to adopt and to change because there's all these, sort of physical things that happen. I mean, on the counter, it took 50 years for electrical elevators to get
Yeah.
adopted. I think we're seeing unprecedented adoption today. So I'm preparing for a keynote talk and I was kind of
Oh,
looking at what was my LLM usage just on ChatGPT over the last 2.5 years. And so I kind of did a quick check and I found out that I've had about 3,800 conversations
okay.
in the last 2.5 years, which kind of averages out to about 75 minutes of collaboration a day,
A day.
every
Wow.
day
Okay.
for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I count in other tools like Claude or, the coding tools like, Cursor and so on, I'm probably sitting at about 90 to 100 minutes
Yeah.
of working with an AI every single day for the last two and a half
Yeah.
years.
And I would imagine that time duration has increased more recently than, say, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely,
So
probably.
you may be using 3 hours of AI today. Let's say, you may have started with a half an hour 2.5 years ago. Yeah.
And that's only 2
Or
years, which
maybe
is
less.
wild because I was like, that is a lot of collaboration. That is
Hmm.
probably, 1/4 of my day at least or more, or one
Yeah.
third.
Yeah.
And spent, I don't spend that amount of time with one single person. So that's a lot. That's a lot. And
Yeah.
if we look at the history of AI adoption, I think ChatGPT reached 100 million users in 2 months.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I've
Isn't
seen
that
that
crazy?
graph. I've
100
seen the
million
graph.
users in two
Yes.
months. I think for comparison, I think TikTok took about 9 months to get 100 million users, and
Mm.
Instagram took about 30 months to get to 100
Right.
million users. So almost
Yeah.
2.5 years.
And ChatGPT only 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
2 months. So we're thinking of the speed of adoption. I feel like we are going at it at a pretty exponential rate. And I would say I'm a moderate heavy user. I don't even think I'm that heavy. I think there are folks who are much, much more
Right.
heavy users of LLMs and so on. But thinking through the history of, say, like the adoption of the mobile phone, because I remember going
Yeah.
through like pagers and then the different iterations, obviously the iPhone and so on. I feel like the pace of adoption, we're seeing something that's unprecedented. You compare this to the adoption of the elevator 200 years ago.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of in a new zone right
Yeah.
now.
A couple of thoughts. One is the nature of the tools, AI tools that we use. And I'm kind of thinking out loud as I talk about this topic. But one is that AI replaces a certain task that human beings are doing or are capable of doing, but can do it much more quickly and or much more efficiently. That's one. And it doesn't really matter whether it's a human being doing the work or not. Right. So for instance, like I was talking to somebody who needed to create meeting minutes.
Mhm.
And particularly, by the way, because I just came back from Japan, it's quite common in corporate settings and corporate meetings. And let's say there are 10 people in it.
Sure.
There's at least one, if not two people whose job is to exclusively take notes at that meeting and then send the meeting, like literally meeting minutes, not even a summary, but meeting minutes manually taken and send to the attendees or other people, right? So I said to that person, like, AI can do this job as well as you can, if not more quickly, and
Mhm.
the output from AI will be as good as, at least the ones that I've seen, almost as good as what a human being can do. So, like, why don't you just use AI to do that for you? And then her answer was, well, we're not allowed to. Like, apparently, it's the
Yeah.
corporate policy
Right.
that you can't record meetings. So, I mean, that's a different topic. But the point is that a human task that can be done by a machine, and it doesn't really matter whether it's a human doing the job or a machine doing the job. So that's one. The other type of work that can be replaced, but maybe a human factor is important, is when that human interaction between the customer and the service provider means something. So for instance, like checking into a hotel, for instance, right? And by the way, there are certain places and certain hotels where I don't mind checking in without any interaction with a human being. But I mean, depending on how much you pay, right? A lobby, you walk into a lobby and I appreciate being greeted by a human being and I appreciate being checked in by a human being at that hotel. Yeah. Another might be, say, like customer service, service phone calls. And I would imagine like in the next couple of years that AI tools, LLM tools will be good enough that you can have a conversation and you might not even know that you're talking to a machine. And you'll be like mimicking human beings. And that kind of human touch may be replicable by a machine. And we may get used to a machine almost acting like a human being to service an individual. And then the elevator example that I used earlier, it took a while for people to sort of move away from their appreciation for humans providing that service and then the trust factor and being okay with machines doing that work. And then maybe not even having that transaction with the customer to accomplish a task.
Right. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's part of human nature. I think fear of change it's a very big one.
Yeah.
New tech has been something that's plagued us for centuries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even like when writing was invented or printing press was invented and industrial machines were invented. I feel
Yeah.
like humans have always been fearful of change.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing it in real time. Wemos are everywhere in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whenever there's a new visitor, I always ask, have you taken a Waymo?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I do a mental survey, and I would say about a third are saying, I'm never getting into it. Not right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I say, studies say that it's about 12x safer, 12 times safer than a human
12
driver.
times safer.
Yeah. So an insurance company did a study and it says 12 times safer than a human driver. But that doesn't change their mind. It's quite alarming. I feel like if my parents came to San Francisco, it's a 50-50 chance if they will sit in a Waymo or not. That's my
Oh,
sense.
wow.
It's quite startling when you sit there and you see sort of the steering wheel turning on its own. It's kind of moving, navigating pretty complex situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is quite a sort of step change.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the case of something like Waymo and autonomous driving, it's taken a while to get to this point because, autonomous driving has been talked about for quite some time.
Right.
I don't know the exact timeline, but at least for a decade, if not 15 years, maybe even like 20 years, it's been talked about. And I think companies like Google, Uber used to have an autonomous driving unit, and Tesla and other companies have talked about quite a bit. And maybe it's taken 10 years to get to this point, but I don't think it's going to take another 50 years for this to be, it might be quicker than saying elevators becoming the norm 100 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like the tech is pretty ready.
Mm.
I think that's what we're not talking about is that the tech is ready. I think there's a lot of regulation
Mm-hmm.
and sort of these sort of safety concerns or litigation issues that we have to work around.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the tech is not the issue.
Do you think there's AI is such a broad field and there are so many implications and applications of AI, but what are some other territories that we're not talking about that can be replaced by AI or machines?
I think cars are one, sort of industrial settings wise.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty big one. I mean, if you look at China and EVs,
Mhm.
they have completely leapfrogged
Yeah. Yeah.
gas cars,
Yeah.
especially with their battery tech. It's
Yeah.
completely
And it probably happened in about 10 years.
very
It happened
quick.
really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they made a bet. They were like, we're not going after hydrogen, which is what most
Yeah.
EVs are, including
Yeah.
some of the more well-known car brands. They went
Yeah.
after the battery, and that worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think something crazy, like a majority of cars in China right now are EVs.
That's crazy.
And the only reason why they haven't flooded the United States or Europe or any of these countries is because of trade
Yeah, yeah,
barriers.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
otherwise, these cars are cheaper and run faster, and
Mhm,
they
mhm,
run
mhm.
on electricity.
Right, right. Yeah, so EV is one technology that's
Mhm.
at least taken over in a place like China. The US is being stubborn about
Yeah.
either blocking China and or protecting fossil fuel companies because there's a lot of money still there. And US still benefits pretty handsomely from fossil fuel. I mean, another technology or industry that will have a significant impact, and I think this is sort of an obvious one, is filmmaking. Just within the past 6 months, the introduction of multiple animation and or filmmaking tools that are either prompt-based and or a combination of prompt and other techniques to produce a 30-second, a 1 minute, 10-minute films and clips. And from an execution standpoint, it's as good as almost professionally produced films for $1 million or more in terms of the budget. And something that we weren't seeing not even 5 years ago, but 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So that I think is another industry that will be fundamentally changed. Like these animation studios and animators, unfortunately, have to either reskill and retool or upskill themselves and or maybe even like find a completely different thing for them to work on.
So here's my challenge. This is
Okay.
my, I guess, my contrary take. I believe that the entertainment market size and market demand for entertainment is going to double, triple. It's growing.
Yeah.
The industry that is locked into traditional tools will probably shrink, but the
Yeah.
market size or market industry for entertainment
Yeah.
is going to double or triple. Do you see what I'm saying here? Which is like, I think
Yeah.
there's
I
a
don't disagree with that point. Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
fairly big disconnect here where, we talk about like movie studios going away. I actually don't think, I mean, I think they have to adapt or die, but market demand for entertainment is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
exponentially growing. So, my question is like, how do these companies move into these new tools, right? And it's going to change. I think there's a great story a friend shared where he went to LA and spoke to a lot of the studios.
Mm.
And this is not a political kind of statement. I'm just sharing an observation. He said that, most of the studios are still locked into these labor contracts.
Yeah.
So while they're working with AI post-edit tools, AI for post-editing, where they're fixing lighting and stuff, they still have to pay someone in lighting X amount of money because of labor or union laws.
Reunion laws. Right.
Yes. So now they're handcuffed in some ways, where they have this huge expense that they aren't able to work around yet or be agile
Yeah.
around. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there's probably some use there where either you train these folks to upskill or you can translate a lot of their knowledge into working with these new AI tools, right? So there are ways to adapt to it. Like the printing press displaced a lot of people who were professional, like calligraphers and writers, right?
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
people who physically wrote, but they created a whole new industry of librarians and
Yeah.
bookkeepers and publishers and so on. So I feel like there's a huge transition that needs to happen. And then there are ways these people are not irrelevant. The lighting guy or girl or people who can do these animation studios or wherever, they're not
Yeah.
irrelevant. They just have to adapt. Like their expertise and everything is still very, very much needed, especially
Yeah.
when their
Yeah.
industry is skyrocketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skyrocketing. Same for, say, design. I would say very similar story.
So I don't disagree with what you just said. I agree with you. I think what's also happening is the democratization as well as deindustrialization of the industry. And what I mean by the specific skills, right? So what used to be reserved for highly skilled people with expensive tools, software and hardware tools, is now those things are available to not just people in a developed country like the United States, but is now available to many people outside of this country, right? So I'll give two examples. One is, say, photography. 50 years ago, you had to have, or even 30 years ago, you had to have expensive cameras and knowledge and skills to be able to take a good photo, right? In the past 15 years, because of the iPhone and smartphones having good cameras, if you have a smartphone today, the camera in a smartphone is as good as the camera that used to be $5,000 and skills,
Yeah, I
yeah.
would say there's a gradient actually. So like I feel like
Okay.
this is another misconception I actually kind of want to address. How many videos do you think Mr. Beast made before he got good?
How many videos? Hundreds of videos, I would imagine? Or no?
Thousands, hundreds, thousands.
Thousands. Okay.
He was relentless until I mean, even right now, he's perfecting
Right.
every output.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're telling me that's not skill and that's not expertise and that's not experience, like I would say, like I would disagree strongly with it. And I think, yes, it democratizes it in that more people have access to it. But, you know,
Yeah.
like let's take the camera, like what do you call it, DSLR camera, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Yes,
Sure.
it's much more accessible to a lot of people. But the number of people who can really, truly create art with it, it's different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Point taken.
Right? They either studied or self-learned or practiced, or they put in heart and energy and time to
Yeah.
perfecting a craft.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yes, while I agree that there are fewer gatekeepers in the sense where maybe make a movie in 2 years, you don't have to sell your way through a slew of execs, right?
Yeah.
So there's less gatekeepers, but you
Yeah.
still need to pour in that amount of work to have that high craft.
Yeah.
AI is the same. You put in slop, you get slop. Like, and it's going to
Yes.
be easier to create slop.
Yeah.
But the people who put in the time and energy and craft into making these pieces, that's not going to go away.
I think we're talking about a few different points, maybe in one conversation, right? Like what you just talked about is craftsmanship and somebody's willingness to invest time to craft something so that output is better than everybody else's, right? What I was talking about is the access that people now have to tools. So what used to be reserved for certain individuals with certain skills and access to certain tools is now available to a lot more people.
I feel like that's just been the case for a long time. I mean, like, you know, most
Yeah.
of the animation studios or edit studios are actually in Vietnam,
That's you. That's you.
right?
Or
So
in Spain or other places.
sure, they've not been concentrated in the US for a long time,
That's you.
right?
That's you.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, software has enabled that. Like, even stuff like CapCut has enabled an entire generation of people who can edit, right? I think software in general has democratized it, where,
Yeah.
you know, gone beyond that. So I feel like distribution wise, it still remained somewhat similar in the sense where like everyone who has access to the internet are likely to be users of the tool. That's pretty
Yeah.
much the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say in terms of like, yeah, but democratizing it, I do agree that more people have the opportunity to learn how to use it.
Yeah. And to make.
Right? To make, yeah, and
Yeah.
to learn or play with it or something. The bar curve for exploration is probably less steep than, say, learning an Adobe tool suite,
Right. Right. Right.
right? I think that our learning curve as a civilization is going to be exponentially higher for sure. Like in the 2.5 years of my 3,800 conversations,
Yeah.
I feel like I am learning at a pace that I've never learned before.
Right.
And I've been
right.
an avid learner for my entire life.
Right. 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 Right.
Like it's exponential. And I feel
Yeah.
like that sort of learning is only going to grow.
Right.
Only going to grow.
Yeah. So we were just talking about industries that get impacted by new technologies. So one is the automotive industry and the battery, right? We just talked about. The other one is filmmaking and the film production industry is another one. Is there another industry that in the next 5 to 10 years that either by AI or any other new technology that can be disrupted in a major way?
I think many. So, I mean, we can talk about retail. Retail has been disrupted.
Yeah, it has been
Been disrupted. With Web
Yeah.
2.0, it was disrupted, like e-commerce,
Yeah.
you know, all of that. There was a great, if you look at a bad prediction from 1990 95 in Newsweek, they said that buying online would never work out. Shopping online would never work out. It was kind of a really fun article, but they were like, it's impossible. You're missing all these different pieces. So anyway, e-commerce, I mean, retail has been disrupted.
Has been.
Right? I would say a lot of the white collar jobs that people are talking about, so accounting, legal, consulting, will get impacted, right? In many ways. It will grow in many ways, but I also think that it's going to be disrupted in many ways.
I wonder, just to pick on a specific one, if legal is another industry that will get impacted in a major way. Because a lot of the legal information is available, and what used to take a lot of searches and a lot of deciphering of information to understand the legality of certain topics or what have you. And I think it was like a year or 2 years ago, a lawyer got caught using ChatGPT to make a case. And that was a comical episode, but topic. But I wonder more and more. And then I wonder, like, I'm seeing a lot more ads for lawyers in New York City these days. For instance, like the subway, I see a lot more ads for lawyers than I used to, say, 2 years ago. And I wonder if there's a correlation between tools like ChatGPT being legal counselors for individuals as opposed to picking up the phone to talk to a lawyer for legal advice.
Yeah, that's a great one. I do agree that the long tail of a lot of these industries, so the smaller parts of the business, will probably be very much transformed. I think the big guys are going to stay around, or gals going to stay around, largely because their clients are paying them to be liability houses.
Sure.
So when you take on a client, you take on that liability. Like that's what they're paying you for, not for your freaking like contract that's pretty much templated. They're paying for that liability cost, right? So very similar to why companies hire like your McKinseys and Bains of the world. Very similar.
Cool.
They paid up for that.
So automotive, so automotive, film, retail, legal, those are some of the industries that are being disrupted in a major way. So just to wrap up, what's your takeaway?
I had one, but it kind of escaped me for a little bit. So I was going to say...
Okay, I'll go first.
Go first, yeah.
Yeah. My takeaway, and this could spawn another conversation, another episode, but because the bar for execution has lowered so drastically, or is drastically decreasing or lowering, that we may be entering a new golden age of ideas. There's so many, all these like online courses about AI this and AI that. And I've taken some of those just out of curiosity and just to sort of keep myself updated. But at the end of the day, to your point about Mr. B spending hours and producing thousands of videos before he got good, you can use this LLM or that tool and these prompt libraries and whatever. But the people who are doing good work or people who are producing good things are A, spending a lot of time with it, and B, are relentless about coming up with good ideas and sharpening and fine-tuning the ideas as opposed to just executing for the hell of it. So for that, I may venture out and say that we may be entering a new golden age of ideas. That's my key takeaway.
I do think that humans have always been very resilient. Every time that there's been a new technology revolution, it's always created a new prosperous cycle for humanity, always. But my key takeaway is like, how can you use AI as leverage and not as a tool? So I think that's, for me, a fundamental reframe, right? Which is, it's not just a tool to create an artifact. How can you leverage AI to create systems that will almost make you superhuman?
Right.
And I think that's the challenge I would leave you and everyone with, including myself, which is like, how can we build these systems to leverage that change? It's like a leapfrog,
Let's be human, superhumans. Let's become superhumans.
That's your takeaway. Let's be superhuman.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's a good place to end. All right. Thank you. All right.
See you soon.
Bye.